Dieses Europa ist in der neuen Welt der Autokraten für Deutschland die einzige Chance, Freiheit, Sicherheit und Wohlstand zu behaupten. Ein starkes Europa, das eine demokratische Machtpolitik betreibt, ist die Antwort. Es kommt daher nicht von ungefähr, dass die Apologeten der autoritären Gesinnung versuchen, Europa zu schwächen, weil eine starke EU Konkurrenz und Gegengewicht zu ihrem Anspruch ist. Wenn Elon Musk, ausgestattet nicht nur mit Milliarden und Abermilliarden, sondern auch mit ungebändigter Kommunikationsmacht, zur Wahl der AfD in Deutschland aufruft, ist das nicht aus Unkenntnis der AfD. Es hat Logik und System. Musk stärkt die, die Europa schwächen. Ein schwaches Europa ist im Interesse von jenen, für die Regulierung eine unangemessene Begrenzung ihrer Macht ist. Aber es braucht die Begrenzung der Macht. Kein Geschäftsmodell darf unsere Demokratie zerstören. Dafür muss Europa wiederum seine Macht jetzt konsequent zu nutzen wissen. Die Macht des größten Binnenmarktes der Welt. Niemand sollte sich bei irgendwem anbiedern, weil er Macht atmet. Wer uns schwächen will, dem müssen wir mit Stärke begegnen. Dafür muss die Europäische Union weniger nach innen schauen, mehr nach außen und mehr für ihre äußere Sicherheit tun.
This is my video update on this Saturday afternoon, January the 4th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the clown world, courtesy of Elensky. And yesterday in my video update, I briefly talked about the interview that Elensky gave to Ukraine media. And since that video update, we have had more statements from Elensky surface. And one statement that he made to Ukraine media has gone viral, where Elensky claims that he has the power to heal. He has the power to heal. Soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers that are unable to walk, when they see Elensky, according to his statement, when they see him, they can walk again. That is what Elensky told the Ukrainian reporters. Let's not call it a statement from Elensky. Let's call it a revelation. We had an Elensky revelation that he has the power to heal injured soldiers. The blind receive sight, the lame are able to walk again. That is what Elensky claimed in this interview. The reporter asked Elensky for some words of hope and encouragement for Ukraine, for the Ukrainian soldiers, so that they can continue to fight on. What are your words of hope and encouragement, Mr. President? And Elensky then told a story of how he was in the United States visiting a hospital, a U.S. hospital, where a Ukrainian soldier was being treated for injuries. He was unable to walk. That's my guess. He was unable to walk and being treated for injuries. And according to Elensky, the sight of Elensky, just seeing him, healed him. And he was able to walk again. And actually, Elensky, as he was relaying the story, he asked for his mobile phone. And he said that he had received a text message from this soldier right before the interview. Like moments before the interview, he received a text message from this soldier where the soldier told him, Mr. President, when I saw you, I was able to walk again. So let's keep on fighting. That was the revelation from miracle worker, prophet, magician Elensky. That's what he told the reporters. The one reporter was laughing. Elensky's wife, Elena Zelenskaya, she was rolling her eyes. But he was going with this. He was on a roll. He was on a roll. Kids don't do drugs. Just don't do them. Or actually, what do I know? He's worth about 300, 400, 500 billion. So What do I know? Scratch that. Anyway, yeah, that was his statement. Elensky, the healer. He's the wonder weapon. Elensky is the wonder weapon. All this time we have been trying to figure out what is going to be the wonder weapon. Is it the ATACMS? Is it the HIMARS? The Leopard tanks, the Abrams tanks, the F-16s? What is the wonder weapon? It turns out that Elensky is the wonder weapon because he can perform these types of miracles. Yeah, Elensky is the wonder weapon. Ghost of Kiev, Zaporozhye Avenger. Forget all that stuff. Elensky, the miracle worker. Elensky claims injured soldier walked again after meeting him. The president came and I started walking, the wounded serviceman reportedly told the Ukrainian leader. Let me see if I have the full quote from this revelation. Elensky recounted meeting an injured soldier who had been taken to the U.S. for treatment. I took a photo with him. He didn't walk, the Ukrainian leader said. I just got a message before the interview in which he said, the president came and I started walking. Let him come more often. I think, of course, that this result did not depend on me, but on the doctors. But it was a pleasant moment, Elensky continued. You know, it's pretty sinister what Elensky's trying to do here. Actually, it's very sinister what he is trying to do. Pushing this ridiculous story out there so that he can continue to send Ukrainian soldiers to their annihilation. False hope. False hope from a false prophet. Remember the Time magazine article, which came out about, I want to say 6 months ago or 9 months ago, where they interviewed members of Elensky's staff. And Elensky's staff claimed that he has a Messiah complex. Remember that article? Yeah, that article was right. That article was freaking spot on from Time magazine. They reported back then, according to their sources, in Kiev that Elensky, he's going cuckoo crazy, and he has a Messiah complex. Sure enough, he comes out with this statement, very sinister statement, actually. All jokes aside, it's a very, very sinister thing that he's trying to do. False prophets, everybody. False prophets. False hope. False hope. So yeah, Elensky is the wonder weapon. And you know what? I think I've figured everything out as to how Ukraine is going to win the war. I figured it out. I know exactly how Ukraine is going to defeat Russia. I've come face to face with, well, the cat's now running away. I came face to face with the Nicosia cat in the woods. But now he's running away. All right, let's get back to how Elensky is going to defeat Russia. I figured it out. I figured this freaking thing out. That's right. That is right. So Elensky is, he's got the power of the prophets, right? He can heal. He can heal and he can perform miracles. So you know how the Ukraine military is going to defeat the Russian military? I tell you exactly how the Ukraine military is going to defeat the Russian military. What Elensky is going to do is he's going to lead the Ukraine military to the Dnieper, right? To the Dnieper. And he is going to part the Dnieper, and the Ukraine military is going to march across the parted river and surprise attack the Russian military. That will be the collapse of the Russian military and the Russian positions. And that will be the end of the war. I figured it out. Elensky is the wonder weapon. He's sinister, man. He is absolutely sinister. Crazy sinister. So what else did Elensky say during this interview? He said some more interesting things. He criticized the EU. He said that the EU is taking advantage of cheap Ukrainian labor while wanting to send unemployed Ukrainians living in the European Union back to Ukraine. He said this is not right. Zelensky criticizes EU's use of cheap labor from Ukraine. Western countries are happy to keep Ukrainian immigrants who work but want to send the others back home. He complained. He said that if the European Union gives him air defense systems, then he will be able to get all of the Ukrainians in Europe who are living in the EU, he will be able to return them back to Ukraine. But he said when he pitched this idea to EU leaders, they balked at this. They said, no. We want to keep the good, cheap Ukrainian labor, but the unemployed Ukrainians living in the EU, we want them to return back to Ukraine. And Elensky said that this is unacceptable. What is his quote? Let me find you his quote here. Here we go. I've got it bookmarked. Let's be honest. There are many Ukrainians abroad. In some countries, they have been seen as a cheap labor force, and now they realize Ukrainians are often more skilled than their own citizens, Elensky said. He went on to accuse his Western counterparts of trying to downplay the matter, adding that they want Ukraine to take back the unemployed, urging him to just tell them to return. I say, look, give me a bit more air defense and I'll tell everyone to come back immediately, he said, stressing that the appeal would be addressed to all Ukrainians, not only to the unemployed. And they replied, the EU replied, no, let those who work here stay, but the rest should return. Yeah, EU leaders are not going to be happy with that statement from Elensky. So that's what he said about the EU leaders. And he then went on to say that when the war ends, most of the Ukrainians living in Europe will return back to Ukraine because there will be a lot of international investment and job opportunities. BlackRock will provide investment and job opportunities, so Ukrainians living in Europe are going to return back to Ukraine. I wouldn't be too sure about that, but anyway, that is what he said. And then he talked about Trump. And boy, did he do some Trump butt kissing. He did some Trump butt kissing. He said that Trump can be decisive. I think for us, this is the most important thing. He can be resolute. He can really stop Putin or help us stop Putin. And then Elensky went on to say that Putin is scared of Trump. The Putin is scared of the Trump, according to Elensky. A lot depends on Trump. I think Putin is afraid of him. I think he is strong and unpredictable, and I believe he really wants to end the war, Elensky added, saying that with Trump on Kiev's side, it would be easier for Ukraine to gain support from its European allies and approach negotiations with Russia from a position of strength. That's right. If Elensky and Trump, if I unite with Trump, then we will be more powerful than the Putin. We will rule over the universe. Trump, join me, and together we will rule over the empire. We can defeat the Putin. Hey, Trump, you very strong, you unpredictable too, but you are very strong, you're very, very resolute. I believe the Putin is afraid of you because you big, strong man, strong muscles, big muscles. I like big muscles. Join me and together we will rule over the empire. So that's what he said about Trump. And Podolyak also gave an interview. Podolyak gave an interview as well, and he said that NATO, without Ukraine, has no chance to defeat Russia. No chance. If Ukraine is not fighting with NATO, then NATO will lose. So that is why Podolyak argued that NATO should get involved in the war now. Right now, as Ukraine is fighting Russia, NATO should jump into the war because this is their only chance to defeat Russia with Ukraine by its side. That is what Podolyak said. What amazes me most here is the total, in fact, psychological unpreparedness of NATO countries for war as such. That is, they have quite a lot of weapons. They are much more effective, but they are not ready to use them. And accordingly, if in 5 years Russia maintains the pace of militarization and authoritarianism in which it is today, NATO has no chance, Podolyak said. He believes that the only way to defeat Russia is to defeat it at the expense of Ukraine. What a patriot, that Podolyak, huh? He really loves his country. Podolyak. Defeat Russia at the expense of Ukraine. that's patriotism for you. That's Podolyak patriotism. NATO joined forces with Ukraine now, right now. And we can defeat Russia at the expense of Ukraine, but we'll defeat Russia. So that's the statement from Podolyak. Lloyd Austin is going to convene the last meeting of NATO members in Germany at the German military base, the U.S. military, NATO, U.S. military German base. And this is going to be the last meeting of NATO members in Germany to discuss Project Ukraine, for the Biden White House, that is. And they are going to meet and discuss military aid for Project Ukraine. And Baerbock was in Syria. I reported on this yesterday. Annalena 360 arrived in Damascus. She met with the suit and tie Al-Qaeda al-Nusra HTS leader of Syria, al-Jawlani, a man who just a couple of weeks ago was wanted by the United States, $10 million reward. But now he has the German foreign minister flying to Syria and meeting with him, sitting down with him and meeting with Jawlani, spreading some of those EU values, those Western values, those Green Party values and policies to al-Jawlani, right? But what Annalena did request of Syria and of al-Jawlani is that he kick out the Russians from the military base in Syria. As I discussed yesterday, this was one of the main purposes of Annalena 360's trip to Syria, to tell al-Jawlani, kick out the Russian presence in Syria. And Maria Zakharova responded to this, and she said, and this is coming from the foreign minister of a country where U.S. military bases are located, I have a question. Shouldn't the German foreign minister say something similar to Washington as well? Yeah, what about those U.S. military bases? Annalena Baerbock. What about all of those U.S. bases in Germany? What about Nord Stream? Shouldn't you ask the Biden White House before they exit? Before you exit in February, Annalena, shouldn't you ask the Biden White House what happened to Nord Stream? Maybe you should figure that one out before you fly to Syria and demand of Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, HTS to remove the Russian military bases in Syria. Al-Jawlani refused to shake Annalena's hand. That's making the rounds on social media. Even though Annalena, she put out her hand to shake Al-Jilani's hand when she arrived to meet him, but Al-Jilani, of course, refused to shake Annalena 360's hand. Anyway, that's the statement from Maria Zakharova. In Austria, coalition talks have fallen apart again. And in Austria, there were elections in September. And the Freedom Party, the far-right, Kremlin-backed Freedom Party, which means that the Freedom Party must be pretty cool, pretty based and pretty cool when the collective West calls them far-right, Kremlin-backed. That means that they have the interests of the Austrian people in mind. But anyway, the Freedom Party won those elections in Austria. But the other parties in Austria, they made a pact. They made a pledge, like 10-year-old children. They decided that if the Freedom Party were to win the elections, then we will not form a coalition with the Freedom Party to prevent them from entering the government. And they made this pact, and since September, they've been trying to form a government without the Freedom Party. And they came very close to forming a coalition, a three-party coalition, but one of the parties dropped out of the coalition. And it looks like they're going to start again to try and form a government without the far-right, Kremlin-backed Freedom Party. Very similar to what's happening in Germany, or what could happen in Germany with the AfD, is already happening in Austria with the Freedom Party. From what I understand, the two parties that got 92 seats of the 183 seats in the lower house of Austria's parliament, the SPO and the OVP, they could form a two-party coalition, but they would have a one-seat majority, razor-thin majority, and they would rather add a third party into the coalition. But they could decide to form a two-party coalition, but it would be very shaky. So that's the news out of Austria. In Greenland, check out this story. In Greenland, the prime minister is saying that it's time for independence from Denmark. It's time to break free. I want to break free. Yeah, Greenland wants to break free. Greenland's leader wants independence from Denmark as Trump hovers over Arctic Island. It's now time to take the next step for our country, Greenlandic Prime Minister Mette Egde says in hinting at a 2025 referendum. Greenland, the world's largest island with a population of around 60,000, was a Danish colony until it became self-ruling with its own parliament in 1979. It remains a territory of Denmark, with Copenhagen exercising control over its foreign and defense policy. It's now time to take the next step for our country, Greenland's prime minister said. Like other countries in the world, we must work to remove the obstacles to cooperation, which we can describe as shackles of the colonial era, and move on, he added. Our cooperation with other countries and our trade relations cannot continue to take place solely through Denmark, he said. Wow. Trump really shook things up, huh? He really, really shook things up. Look, Trump posts crazy stuff, but underneath the craziness, there's a method to the madness. And what Trump wants to do is he wants to create a sphere of influence. That's the word that I'm looking for. He wants to create a very strong U.S. sphere of influence. And we're not talking about the EU and Europe. He's not interested in that. He's not interested in this U.S. vassal state relationship with the EU. What he's interested is a U.S. sphere of influence. That's why he's posting crazy stuff about Canada and crazy stuff about the Panama Canal and then Greenland. But it really shook things up in Greenland. And now you have the Prime Minister of Greenland talking about breaking free from colonialism. Interesting choice of words, huh? You know what's very ironic, don't you think? A little bit ironic, I really do think, is that the collective West, including Denmark, they have been going on and on about Russian, over the last 3 years, about Russian imperialism and colonialism. I don't know what they're really talking about. I don't think anyone really knows what they're talking about, but they go on and on about Russian colonialism and Russian imperialism, and we have to break Russia apart so we can break apart its colonialism and its imperialism. They even have conferences and events discussing Russian colonialism. And here we have Greenland talking about Denmark colonialism. Very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So should we do some clown worlds and wrap up this video update? I say, yeah, let's do some clown worlds. And the first clown world is from House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, who made a slip of the tongue during a speech. And instead of saying fight hard, he said fart hard.
That makes the American dream possible. We will fight hard for the freedom to vote.
Not much of a clown world. He quickly corrected himself, by the way. But he wanted to say fight hard, and he said fart hard. But you know what? When a world leader messes up and says fart, that's automatic entry into clown world. It's just automatic. It's just automatic. So that's one clown world. And the other clown world comes from The Economist, which put out an article a couple of days ago with the title, "Why Canada Should Join the EU. Europe needs space and resources. Canada needs people. Let's deal." Yeah, that's going to help Canada. Economist, neocon publication Economist. That's what Canada needs, is to enter the EU. That's exactly what Canada needs, right? As if Trudeau has not done enough damage to Canada. Now what they should do is talk about entering the European Union. That would take all of the terrible policies that Trudeau has inflicted on Canada, and that would put them in overdrive if there was some sort of entry of Canada into the European Union. The solution, at least the first step to the solution, is to remove Trudeau. That's step one. Remove Trudeau, and then try and see if you can salvage the state of Canada, given all the damage that Trudeau has done. But you have to get rid of Trudeau first. It doesn't need to enter the European Union. That's the last thing Canada needs, the absolute last thing it needs. And The Economist, talking about how the EU needs resources. It needs space and resources. It needs resources. Now, what country is located right next to the European Union and has a boatload of resources, but has been sanctioned by the European Union? What country is that? What country has all of these freaking resources? Even a pipeline at one point in time. They even had a pipeline going straight to Germany. What country is that? Yeah, that's how you solve the sanctioning Russia problem. The resources problem from sanctioning Russia. You get Canada into the European Union. It's an admission from the neocons that the EU has nothing to do with geography. At least they're admitting that. Has nothing to do with geography or Europe at all. It's a geopolitical project. That's what the European Union is. Anyway, that's an extension of NATO. That's the article from The Economist. And finally, This is not a clown world, but I still think this is interesting. We have this chart from World of Statistics, the world's leaders' approval rating, according to Morning Consult Political Intelligence, Gallup. Numbers are rounded according to World of Statistics. World leaders' approval rating has Bukele at 91%, Putin at 80%, Russia's in tatters, 80%, Modi at 76%, Milei 66%, Claudia Sheinbaum 64%, and then we go down the list. Simon Harris 45%, Donald Tusk at 44%. Really, 44% of Poland approves of Tusk, huh? Albanese at 40%, Ramaphosa at 40%. Maloney at 38%. What else? Biden is at 37%. The diminished Professor Bidenopoulos has 37% support. Really? Interesting. Erdogan at 33%. What else? Sanchez at 32%. Stammer at 30%. 30% support for Stammer. I don't buy it. Trudeau at 26%. I don't buy it. Come on. Come on. Olaf Scholz, 19%. Macron, 18%. Peter Fiala, 17 freaking percent. Right above Yoon, who is in last place with 15%, South Korea. Wow, Peter Fiala is very, very unpopular. 17%. Yoon at 15%. Macron and Scholz, 19% and 18%. So, do you agree with the list? Do you agree with the list? The approval ratings of world leaders. That's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like the hoodie I am wearing in today's video update. The link to the Duran shop is in the description box down below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care.